Hi, I'm Max Keiser. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. Time now to go to Bangkok and talk with J.S. Kim of SmartKnowledgeU.com. John, welcome back to the Keiser Report.
Thanks a lot, Max. It's good to be back.
All righty, J.S. Kim, the financial community is abuzz with Warren Buffett's claim that gold is valueless, an unproductive holding. And he likened today's mania for gold to earlier bubbles in tulips, internet stocks, and houses. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's just an example of Warren Buffett, talking his book. The thing I never really understood, Max, is this whole hero worship. I think it's just silly, right, when so many people put so much belief in basically one person. Because, I think that we're in this whole mess as far as the global financial system because people can't think for themselves anymore. I mean, I think people should just make up their own mind about the value of gold and silver by looking at the facts, right, and not listening to one person.
Yeah, it was surprising that somebody who has a reputation for speaking in a no-nonsense kind of way would purposefully obfuscate the truth by stating lies. A bubble would indicate that there's over-ownership in a sector. Less than 1% of the globe's financial assets are invested in precious metals. It's clearly not over-owned. Plus, gold itself has outperformed Berkshire Hathaway stock for the past 10 years by a factor of 500%. If you had just bought gold 10 years ago and not Berkshire Hathaway stock, you'd be 500% ahead of the game. And also, I mean, Warren Buffett, let's face it, he missed the biggest stock of the last decade, Apple Computer. I mean, he eventually got into IBM recently, but he missed the biggest capitalized stock in the world, Apple Computer, the biggest gainer in the world, Apple Computer. So he's overrated, basically. I mean, yeah, his 20-year track record, 30-year track record is better than most, but the only thing you can say about Warren Buffett is he's not overtly criminal. He's more behind-the-scenes criminal, and I guess in America that constitutes a hero these days. All right, let's talk about Ben Davies, who's also widely quoted. He says that central bank buying of gold has gold shorts trapped. Do you concur? And for the audience, explain what it means to have gold shorts trapped and what you would expect to see in this case.
Max, I actually don't concur with Ben Davies in the sense that the gold shorts are going to get overrun. And, the gold shorts, again, what that means is the big bullion banks that are short gold in the futures market as the gold price rises basically have no way out besides going long to counter that. And the reason I say that is because remember, Max, when silver was at 50, everyone said the same thing, that the silver shorts were going to get run over. But as we've seen in the past, the bankers can come up with some kind of scam to overcome that. So in the case of silver that time, they'll just go to the CME and they raise initial and maintenance margins to crash silver. They can change laws. Or in the event that say they do get overrun, what prevents them from just defaulting? Because we saw in MF Global, right, there's nothing to stop them from doing whatever they want. So in that sense, I remain just a little bit skeptical that they can get overrun.
All right, well, you mentioned silver. Let's talk about silver. Reportedly, an attempted paper silver raid last week when 102 million paper ounces were dumped on the market within 7 minutes. It didn't succeed this time in driving down the price, John. So to follow up on what you're just saying there, in terms of the paper market versus the physical market, the attempt by the paper bugs, as I call them, to manipulate the price down. Last week they tried it with silver. They dumped 107 million paper ounces. It did not drive the price down. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are people are catching on to their game because actually earlier in the year they basically dumped us, I believe it was 250 million ounces in 1 minute, which is ludicrous because in 2010 the entire annual mine production was only about 735 million ounces. So the COMEX trades about 100 billion ounces per year. So it's even a greater ratio than gold, because in the gold futures market, we know they trade about 100 times more paper gold than actual real physical gold that exists. Silver is about 135 times more. But what's even more astounding is when you look at the total silver supply in 2010, when you add in scrap metal as well to the annual mine production, and you look at about 78% of that is used up, right, for industrial purposes. So in 2010, there's only about 100 million ounces of silver left for investment or for monetary purposes. So again, remember, Max, I said 100 billion ounces trades on COMEX, right? It's 1,000 times more. It's such a fraudulent market.
Yeah, and it's interesting, this Warren Buffett trying to talk down gold. Meanwhile, in the Troika in Europe, what's the first thing they did when they got Greece to sign off on the memorandum when it's effectively losing their sovereignty? They now have a claim on Greece's gold, 111 tons of gold. And of course, this is now a factor in the Troika's land grab and asset grab all over Europe. I guess they're looking for Italy's 2,400 tons of gold at some point. And now the Troika believes that they've got a claim on Greek gold. And this appears to be the trend, even though gold apparently is overvalued. How do you see it in Asia and the rest of the world? Are these gold assets going to increasingly be the subject of massive state intervention and banking terrorism?
It's hard to say at this point because I think the Asian central banking system, I think, is a little different from the Western central banking system, right? Because, we have right now the fiat currency danger is either collapse of the euro or collapse of the US dollar. So on the other hand, say in China, the Chinese government has been, for a couple of years now, for several years, have been encouraging all their citizens to buy physical silver, to buy physical gold, even running state-sponsored commercials in the country to do so. And Asia has a history of thousands of years of valuing gold and silver as money. So I think, Asia will protect. I think the Asian governments will protect its citizens more in that sense than the Western governments, because really this whole Ponzi scheme, right, Max, as far as this whole global monetary system, is really the Western banking initiated.
Yeah, it's interesting, the dynamic between the euro, the dollar, and what's going on there. People assume that the euro is the weak link in the global currency outlook, but of course, China is much more sympathetic to seeing a strong euro than they are the U.S. dollar. Maybe you can get into that a little bit for us, J.S. Kim.
Sure. I think that's a great point, Max, because I've always felt that, the U.S. dollar is certainly no better off than the euro, though all the media attention seems to be on, the weakness in the euro right now. Certainly the euro is a newer currency, only coming to existence in 2001. Does not have the volume of the U.S. dollar, obviously, as an international currency. So, I think definitely weakness in the Europe and the U.S. dollar are going to affect the Asian economy. The Asian economy is not going to be able to escape this. So, like you said before, if you look at what the creditors to Greece are desiring, they're desiring to take Greece's gold. You have to look at what the actions are of these politicians or these central banks and not the words they say, because the actions reveal truly, what they value. So while they may be saying gold is a barbarous relic, or other central banks may be denigrating gold in the media, if you look at their actions, you see, central banks all around the world, as far as like net purchasing, their net purchasing is up on gold, for the past couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. The trend toward the central bank is to increase their precious metals position. The confidence in the dollar is weakening. The business model of the U.S., which is to invade a country, to spend a lot of money on weapons to try to boost GDP, seems to have run its course. But I wanted to get back to the Eurozone for a second. Clearly, the story in Greece is now finished. They've lost their sovereignty. There was a moment when they were told that they would be deprived of voting on a referendum by the Troika. So their sovereignty, that was the moment that if they were going to stage some kind of revolution, that would have been the time to do it. But they never did. So we can just kiss Greece goodbye. It's now part of Euro Disney. But let's look ahead to the next front again of the paper versus physical assets, the war against the financial terrorism. It seems like what's happening in Spain is heating up now. The people in Spain, I just saw some reports coming out of Spain, are really preparing now for a fight with these terrorists that destroyed Greece. Do you have your ear to the ground there in Spain, and do you pick up on some movement there?
I've been following it a little bit, but not perhaps as closely as you. But I do believe, as you pointed out earlier, that this is the point that people have to take a stand. They have to take a stand against this corrupt, criminal global banking cartel. If they want to be able to preserve the wealth not only this generation but for future generations as well.
Well, we told people in Greece to buy gold and silver. Those people are going to survive. Everyone else is going to perish, unfortunately. Let's get your thoughts now going forward for 2012 in the precious metals markets. What do you see kind of developing?
Actually, it looks like gold and silver just broke out. So I do believe that this year will be a banner year, both for gold and for silver. We'll see more of a divergence between the paper price and the silver price, but it will also not be one without volatility. I think we're going to see great volatility in the gold and silver prices, especially as the banking cartel struggles and fights to keep to suppress the price. So we're still going to see a lot of volatility this year, but I think it's going to be overall a very positive year.
Yeah, well, it seems so odd to me because, getting back to the Warren Buffett story, here's a guy who owns a big piece of Wells Fargo Bank and, by extension, a huge piece of the banking industry, the paper bug industry, who is advocating this multi-trillion-dollar pump by central banks. Of course, his stock is going to benefit, his wealth is going to benefit, but at the exact same time, oil prices and precious metal prices are going up concurrently, which is having the effect of making the poor even poorer and the rich even richer. So going forward, I think it's important for people to understand that if they listen to Warren Buffett, it's a ticket to poverty, even if you own his stock, which has gone nowhere in 10 years.
Well, I think people have to see Warren Buffett for who he really is, right, Max? I mean, he is part of the elite. He is part of the people that are in power. I mean, we saw that when he struck that deal with Goldman Sachs, right, to buy $5 billion of preferred shares. And I read that he made almost $650 million in profit off that, because Goldman Sachs paid Berkshire Hathaway back $5.65 billion. So, he does have access to deals that you and I can't get, Max, that basically ensure him of profits. He does benefit from the current monetary system, the current immoral structure of our fractional reserve banking system. So he's part of the people that benefit from the system. So it's not a surprise to me that he continually denigrates gold and continually denigrates silver. And this is a man that's been wrong for 10 years, right? He's been denigrating gold since it's risen from $250 an ounce to what's it out now, 1760 about, and silver from $4 to over 35. So he's been wrong for 10 years running. Why would you listen to this man?
Right, you made the Goldman Sachs point. Now he's doing the same thing with Bank of America, trading on inside information. All right, J.S. Kim, we're out of time. Thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Okay, it's been my pleasure, Max. All
right, and that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I want to thank my guest, J.S. Kim of SmartKnowledgeU.com. If you want to send me an email, please do so at keiserreport@rttv.ru. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I'm trying to get to 50,000 followers. Until next time, Max Keiser saying bye, y'all.